Hello, everyone. It's Phil Jones, and I am back with Phil Boyle, and we're here to talk about another topic. So, Phil, what would you like to talk about today?
I want to talk about, can you, and more importantly, should you use a pro grade projector in your home theater? Are they a good choice?
Phil and I both came from a consumer side of a consumer electronics company, Sony. And before I took over Projector Reviews, I did a lot of training and stuff on the televisions and their higher end home cinema projectors. And one of the first projectors that I took on as a reviewer was a very large, very bright WUXGA Epson, and I took it home and I set it up, and it was, oh my god, for first thing, it was like 12,000 ANSI lumens and I was like, wow. And I was like, well, how much is this thing? I'm like, this is a quarter of what the big Sony was at that time. And I thought, like, maybe I could use this for home entertainment. But there's some pros and some cons. So let's talk about that, Phil.
So let's talk about the first big pro. Now, I'm gonna preface this with it depends on the brand and it depends on the series, because not everything we're going to say here blanket applies to every professional projector across every brand. You need to do your research. But typically, professional projectors are brighter, right?
Yeah, business
Right.
projectors have always seemed to be a little brighter, which I can see being a benefit of trying to overcome ambient light in a room.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. They are typically brighter, and if that's your need, you need a super bright projector. Certainly, that can fit the bill. But there are some downsides, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But let's talk about another pro of typical pro grade projectors. And that's they're built with professional use in mind. So they can be and often are built like tanks. Again, not across all of them, but a big chunk of them. They're built to last because they're being used from room to room, from location to location. They're being shipped, they're being mounted, they're being unmounted.
But if I asked you, Phil, how would you classify and what would make a projector a business projector anyway compared to a consumer projector?
So yeah, and actually this exact point is what prompted our discussion that is prompting this video. The line modern professional projectors is being blurred for a wide range. I mean, it used to be that a professional projector was 16 by 10 native aspect ratio, which is a taller screen. But instead of being 1920 by 1080, it's 1920 by 1200 to make up for that taller sensor. But
Mm-hmm.
now, in fact, I just did a review on an Optima business projector, but it's a native 16 by 9 imager. So that hard line that was pretty much across the board just a few years ago is now blurred with projectors like that. And there are a lot of reasons we can speculate as to why. It's cheaper to only use one type of chip. Unless you produce a less expensive projector. Less
Mm-hmm.
expensive projector without reducing quality means you could put
Mm-hmm.
more features in it. There's a lot of reasons that the manufacturers can claim they did it. But typically, it is a professional projector is separated by the fact that it's a different aspect ratio. And that's still the case for the majority of pro projectors these days.
Yeah, because if you look at it, you still see XGA and WXGA.
So you need to be careful, because if you're going to put a pro projector in your house and it's 16 by 10 and you have a 16 by 9 screen, that means you're cropping off a chunk of the image. It's just something you need to be aware of. Even if it has a 16 by 9 mode that you can put it in, typically that chip can still be putting out light in those areas.
Yeah, yeah. So you
So
have the
so there's that.
different resolutions,
Yeah,
different aspect ratios. The other thing too that you had mentioned to me, Phil, a lot of times because you used to do pro stuff, is control. So what do you use control for? How that's something that you always
exactly.
talk about.
Yeah. So again, it's those professional features that are designed for network administrators who are putting out 100 projectors. So they want to be able to have one person sit back at their desk and turn the projector on and off, diagnose problems, put it through its paces, adjust the projector for an upcoming meeting, send out alerts. None of that is going to be useful to you in your home. Yet when you buy a business projector and put it in your home, you're going to potentially be paying for those features instead of another feature that actually you would get benefit for. You're buying pro level features that you're never going to use, but you're buying them.
Exactly. So, and then if you go back, we talked about one of the benefits of a commercial projector or a business projector is a lot of times they tend to be brighter than a similarly priced home theater projector. But a lot of times to get to that brightness, the main goal is not extremely accurate color. It's a lot easier to push the brightness up, make it a little bluish, a little greenish to get the brightness up there because you're trying to pierce through ambient light. The next thing is, if I'm chasing, there's only a certain amount of native contrast and if I'm really chasing the brightness, a lot of times as I turn up the brightness, the blacks become grayer. Now, in a room with a lot of ambient light, you may not notice that, but in a home theater application where the lights are kind of lower or off, the gray blacks become a lot more noticeable. Where home theater projectors, they realize that a lot of times I'm watching them in darker environments, so I do take a little bit more care to maintain the black level in that projector, even if it means I got to give up a little bit of the brightness.
And you're absolutely right, because when I was on the pro side of the business and I was doing, setups, projection setups at trade shows and events and things like that, I didn't care about color accuracy because there was so much light in the room. I was worried about being able to throw a viewable image for an auditorium full of people.
Exactly.
And not color accuracy. I wasn't concerned about black light because that room was bright. I was concerned about, am I going to get some color in this image? And I'm not going to get deep blacks. So again, that falls into the category of you're either not going to get the features that you may need or want for your home theater projector in a pro projector, or you're going to get features that are great for use in an auditorium, on a trade show floor, that kind of thing, but have absolutely no value and actually may be worse for you in your home. You talked about color. I mean, typically, and again, this isn't across the board because this Optima projector I just reviewed, it had great color. It didn't actually display that predominantly bluish green image that you see even to this day in most professional projectors, because you don't notice that in a hall, right? You don't notice that at a trade show, but you sure as heck do notice it in your home. So you need to be careful about that. And you mentioned black levels. That's another example. On a consumer projector, you get more. I mean, both projectors can have good blacks, right? A good black floor, but often consumer projectors give you more control over that black, right? Yeah. They have features like dynamic black, right? They have the ability to adjust the black level in a variety of ways that a pro projector doesn't care about. And so you're not going to find them on there.
As you spend more money, you go out and buy a Christie professional projector at $35,000, $40,000. Guess what? The blacks are going to be good, the colors are going to be good, and it's going to be bright. But because eventually you get to the point where you don't have to compromise much. So think of it this way. You have this bag, and this bag is, you can get everything you can put in this bag for $3,000, right? And there's all these little things out there, and you have to think about the customer and the use case and say, which one of these things I'm going to throw in the bag? Throw in the brighter lamp. I'm going to throw in the freaking control system. I'm going to throw in, HDMI bypass so I can plug two of them in, because at this price point, a business person will value those things, right? But when I do that, I can't put in the dynamic iris. I can't put in the the bigger video processor. I can't put in smart features. I got to use louder fans and a smaller chassis because the big fans and the big chassis is more expensive and the dealer doesn't want to carry it around anyway. So it's noisier. You can only put so much in that bag, in that box,
Right.
at $2,000 or $3,000. Now, as we get up into the higher end pieces, like for example, a Sony GTZ 380 at $90,000 with the lens, 10,000 anti-lumen. I've seen those in professional and home theater applications. I've seen big Barcos and Christie's. Same models in business and professional applications, because eventually you get to the point where the manufacturer just throws everything in the box. But for most applications, you can only pick so much for that price point.
Yeah. And while those big expensive projectors do produce a really good picture, again, because they're meant to be used in primarily big open spaces, even if it's in a professional theater projection room, those rooms have massive ventilation, right? They're designed with this kind of thing in mind. I can't tell you. I have personally seen, I've been in homes, I'm not going to name names, but I've been in homes of people who can afford to buy those $100,000 projectors, and did because they were told to, and then realized that, holy crap, this thing is putting out a ton of heat. This thing is putting out a ton of noise. This thing just broke because the box that I normally put my projector in doesn't have enough ventilation, and so it fried itself because of the heat buildup. You have to be aware of so many things. And unless you have your own projection room in your house, I don't know that realistically those big $100,000 projectors are going to fit the bill. Exactly. I mean, certainly you and I had access to a lot of pro grade stuff over the years, and I've been guilty of it on the audio side, putting a pro audio amplifier in my house, and like within a month I was like, oh my God, I got to get this thing out of here. It's not, it can power my home theater sound system and do a great job at it, but my God, it generates a lot of heat. My God, it generates a lot of noise because it's not meant to be in a living room.
I know. I will tell you that, like as Phil mentioned, and the reason why we had this conversation to begin with was he saw that he has this little, was it an Optima? Was it an Optima? Yeah. And the Optima, a lot of times there is at that $2,000 price point, they're starting to kind of blend. And he was like, well, why would someone buy this? Well, it was a shorter throw, which was beneficial to put on a desk in a business. It was compact. It was bright for as compact as it was. And the resolution was pretty darn good. So that combination of features works for certain business applications, but at the same time,
it does.
If I'm in a dorm or I'm in a barracks or I want to do a backyard movie night, this still may be another option for you. So
sure.
You are starting to see some blurring between the two at the lower at the lower extremes and the higher extremes. You're seeing blending. In the middle, it's still kind of separate.
And let's stick with that $2,000 price range and that blurring, because it gets even more confusing, because now manufacturers, including Optima on that projector, are including features like HDR. That projector actually produced decent blacks, right? But it didn't offer the detailed black level control. You and I had a conversation about it. When you're throwing up a PowerPoint presentation and the system is dynamically adjusting the black, that's not really going to be noticeable when you go from PowerPoint slide to PowerPoint slide. But when you hook up HBO Max and you're watching, and in my case, it was a scene from Wonka, and that thing is chuk, 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 moving through its range, it's hugely distracting because it's not designed primarily to watch movies through in a home. And so very quickly, when you look a little bit closer, you can find reasons not to buy. I want to name another feature that I want you to talk about too, because often projectors do more than one thing, especially with gaming specifically. Yes, this projector had decent input lag, but it certainly wasn't 4.7 milliseconds, right? Like some gaming projectors. they didn't put motion smoothing in it because nobody cares about motion smoothing in a boardroom or in a classroom or in a meeting room, which is where this projector is being marketed to. So you may care about that. I know that they're for content, especially gaming content. I like motion smoothing. I like what it does to the picture. So, there's features like that.
Well, the way normally what ends up happening with these conversations, the people who normally type this in, they're looking for the best value, right? And they go, wow, for $1,800, I can get this, Epson or ViewSonic or Optima or BenQ, home theater projector that has, 2,000 or maybe now 3,000 ANSI lumens. But at the same price, I can go out and buy one that's 6,000. And the way to think of it is almost like watts. A big PA amplifier has 10,000 watts. It doesn't mean it's going to sound as good as one that has 100 because of what you're trying to use it for. The main reason why they're having this discussion or battle in their head is over, wow, look at the brightness I can get for the buck.
Right.
And if you just think about the brightness, you may think that the business projector is a better application. But as you said, there's things for a home entertainment projector that you're going to care about: low lag, brightness, color accuracy, better motion, better HDR
black level
performance,
control.
better black level control, better color adjustments, things that are in that projector. And that's what a manufacturer spent the money instead of doubling the brightness.
And as a perfect example of that, Optima doesn't even, while they say that this projector, it is able to produce DCI-P3 color, they didn't even put a number because the customer they're pointing at to, they don't care. They don't care.
They don't care.
But if you're watching movies,
you do.
You care.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we're trying to tell people is there's give and take. So if you're looking for a projector for a home entertainment application and you see a business projector, make sure that business projector has the features that you care about that would be in a home entertainment projector. Don't get dazzled by just the brightness capability. I will tell you the one place where I do use a lot of business-based projectors is backyard theater, because I need something compact, bright, and rugged that I can overcome ambient light.
Honestly, that's another use case for this Optima. What we were talking about at the very beginning is you have to look at the total package. You have to not only go, okay, I need a bright projector, and maybe I can't get a consumer projector for this price that hits this level of brightness, but you also have to look at what features you're buying that you're never going to use, that you could put those dollars in another projector toward those features. So yeah, if you're a single use case user where it's all about brightness, then sure, you can look at one of these. Or if your concern is you want a short throw projector for around $2,000 that's super bright, sure. But make sure that that's all you care about.
Can you use a business projector in a home entertainment application? You could, but the question is, as Phil said at the beginning, but should you? So Phil, thank you very much, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Take care.